When you're creating your music, do you sometimes struggle to make it sound different than the last track you did? Or do you feel that every single track you're doing sounds pretty similar, but you're not really getting away from your little style? Or do you listen to your music and think, oh, you know what, it sounds just like that person or this person. Why can't I create something that's like really unique to me? Why can't I create my own little style? Or why do I struggle to create different styles of music or different genres? Well, fear not, because I think every single producer has been at that crossroads at some stage themselves in the past, or if not, they're going to be getting there in the future. Let me give you an example. If you always listened to classical music every single day, you studied classical music and you really studied it, not just listened to it, but actually you scored out the notes if you can do that, or play the notes, or at least continually listen to that music all day long, then what do you think you're going to be creating when you're in your creative process? Well, it's quite obvious. You're going to be jumping to that one thing that you know, because that's what you know and that's what you do and that's how you sound and that's the instruments you use and that's what you do. In principle, this would be okay, but we're talking about you being able to produce records that are creative and that sound really interesting. And creativity is about doing something unique and something different, isn't it? So to be able to do that more often or more easily, or without having to really, really press ourselves into, right, let me go and now find out how that chord sequence works in that type of track and then see if I can implement it. And that would just take forever. And you're probably never going to hit the mark the way you want to, because it's not natural. You're trying to force something to happen, which doesn't work. So the best thing you can do is to start studying different styles of music. Now, I don't mean just listen to lots of different types of music and think that, yeah, I've listened to lots of it, so I know it. No, really say, right, okay, for the next year, all I'm going to be doing is just studying that type of music. So I'm going to write down all the notes if you can, or play them, or at least imagine them all and program them up, maybe recreate them in a track so that you kind of learn the process of what they do. And then go and check the sound. How's it mixed? Where does the vocal sit? What's the arrangement? How long are the songs? You know, what's the ups? What's the downs? How do they drop things out? How do they build things? And basically, how do they do what they do? So do that for a style of music, and then say, right, now I'm going to spend another year just listening to this style of music and this type of artist to see how they do what they do. And again, just study it. Don't just listen to it and think that that's going to influence you. Yes, it will, but by studying it and really understanding how it is made and how it's created and what the sounds are, etc., etc., that's how you're going to get really to the point where you need to get, where all of a sudden now your creative genie inside yourself is going to then remember that. And when you are then creating any type of track, it could be a pop track or a rock track or a hip hop track or a dance track, automatically all these kind of influences get rubbed off into what you're doing. It's the same as when you're a young child and you hang around with certain types of people, that influences you and it makes you think like them. If you then change the type of people you hang around with, you start thinking differently, but you still remember the other people. So now you have like two types of people that are influencing you into how you think about things. With music, it's pretty much the same. And by doing this homework, naturally you start creating different ideas and you're like, wow, where did that come from? And other people will say like, how does he do that? Where did he get that idea from? Where did you get that idea from? Well, I didn't. It just came out of me. But you've done your homework, and your musical creative genie has now become so much more knowledgeable that all of a sudden this genie can now give you so much more than it did before. So automatically your ideas become different, and automatically you get more exciting ideas and more unique ideas and different ideas, and your music becomes more vibrant and it changes. You'll be able to execute certain type of projects much quicker, but you've got to really immerse yourself in these other styles. You can't just make it a quick thing, do it for 2 weeks and then go, yeah, you know what, I understand all that. No. Try and find an artist that you can really connect with, someone that you think, you know what, this is really cool and it's really interesting, and it might be completely out there, way out there. The more way out there and the more creative they are, the more you can probably learn from it. When I was a young boy, I was very lucky that my family were in the music industry, so we had a lot of records. And I really got into Al Jarreau, George Benson, Herbie Hancock, Michael Jackson. I was really, really into that. And then when I came to my mid-teens, I started getting into Prince really heavily. And that was a really long period. For a good 5-6 years, I was listening to nothing but Prince. And I was really getting influenced so heavily by him that when I was now writing my songs, which I did from a young age, but now all of a sudden I started to sound almost like a clone of him because I was so influenced by it. So one day I realized that, and I was like, no, I need to just move away from that. And then I got really into R&B, and then I got into hip hop, and then I got into dance and drum and bass, and every single thing affected me in a certain way. And if you really study the arrangements and the sounds and the way it's mixed and the vocal arrangements and the harmonies and what BVs there are on those tracks, then that can give you that real structure of understanding why that music really works. And aside from growing and kind of feeding the inner creative genie in yourself, what you also get as a bonus with this is that it gives you the ability to be able to create different styles of music more easily, allowing you to maybe work with different types of artists in different types of genres, which means that you can attract different clientele to you as a producer. And maybe you haven't even found what you're best at yet. You might think that R&B is your pocket and you're really great there. I don't want to pick on R&B, but just for instance, but you might be really great at doing really good pop music, or you might be really good songwriter in a certain style that you didn't even know because you haven't allowed yourself to grow in that direction because you're so focused on doing what you're doing. For me personally, to have implemented this process from a young age and go through those different styles of music, it allows me now to be able to produce a pop record or a hip hop record or a jazz record or a reggae record or a dance record. I've been able to do all those types of things, and I like the variation on that anyway. That's maybe not something you want to do, but definitely getting those influences grows you as a producer. It grows your creative genie that I keep talking about, and it will enable you to be a much more rounded creator, and your creations will constantly be evolving much more easily. And this should then also mean that as a producer you have a longer shelf life, is what they call it, that you don't get like stale. You don't start sounding like, oh my god, I'm not working with that producer because everything he does sounds exactly the same. So if you look through history and you look through all the producers that were really successful, they were able to reinvent themselves. They were able to go into a different direction and create different types of productions. And the ones that don't, they have their little heyday, and then after that you don't really hear from them anymore because their style's been heard. The human brain always looks for something fresh and new, and that's what we get excited about. So grow yourself, make yourself have a bigger armory of tools that you can subconsciously implement into your creations. And that brings me to the end of this video. I hope you've enjoyed it. Please like, subscribe, and press the bell for future content. And if you've got any questions, just DM me and I will get straight back to you. Bye-bye.